Alright, let's talk about anime figures. There were a lot of events last week, so I'm gonna go over what I thought were the most notable announcements, as well as some of my personal favorites. So starting off with the pop-up parades, feast your eyes on the Gura figure because I think this one looks pretty good. You know, the quality of pop-up parades are all over the place, but when it comes to Hololive stuff, they tend to get a little more love and care. Granted, they are a little more expensive. Then we got a bunch of Danganronpa announcements. It's pretty funny that it took them this long to do the main protagonist, but you can really tell who their favorite character is because when you look at the Chihiro figure, you know, it's pretty standard, but then you look at Chiaki, who has a really fun pose with her game controller, and you also get Nanami, so it's a pretty good value. But what I think might be the best value is the announcements of the panty and stocking figures. So we'll be getting large pop-up parades of their more anime transformations, and you know, these are more comparable to scale figures, but they usually only cost 7,500 yen on AmiAmi. Then they're also releasing the cartoon forms as regular pop-up parades. I think if you get all 4 figures, these are gonna look amazing together, and it would only cost you about 23,000 yen. I mean, these days, that can be cheaper than a single scale figure. If I didn't already have the Panty Alter figure, then these 4 would be the #1 thing I would buy from this event. They also announced some Inuyasha ones, which were really weird because they showed the concept art, and then a few days later, some of them went up for pre-order. And I already got Sango, but I do wish it was her ninja outfit. And then I'll probably get Bachara from Blue Lock, which is pretty hype right now, because if you didn't see, for the World Cup, Japan actually collaborated with Blue Lock for the uniforms, and then they beat freaking Germany and Spain. And the last pop-ups that caught my eye were all the Chainsaw Man announcements. These might be a more affordable way if you're trying to get the whole crew, but from their silhouettes, these ones aren't going to be anything too exciting, except for probably Kobeni, which is doing the double peace sign. Of course, there were a bunch of Nendoroid shown, but I'm not gonna really go over them since most of them are pretty cute, like Cerberus from Helltaker. But seeing this little octopus guy made me laugh. Same with Kuwabara, just because it looks like he has a unique face. It doesn't look like it'll be interchangeable with all the other Nendoroids. The jar from Elden Ring is also pretty silly, but probably not as silly as Guts will be in Nendoroid form. Berserk being a really dark seinen series, having a chibi Guts running around is just hilarious. Moving on to scales, the first one I want to talk about is the Nakano figure from Quintessential Quintuplets. She is the last girl in this line of figures, and just like the others, the colors are super vibrant and really pop out. There's some nice texturing going on here and there. But the main reason I want to talk about it is because she's already up for pre-order, but her price is consistent with all the other girls. But not only that, they're all relatively cheap for a 1/6 scale, so it's possible to get all 5 of them. I mean, just look at Furyu, which charged 2 drastically different prices for the same line of figure. It just really sucks for people who are trying to collect the set, but maybe I just wanted another chance to throw Furyu under the bus. So, good for Good Smile not being like them. It looks like Chorus Recoil was enough of a hit, man, that we don't have to wait too long for their figures. We'll be getting a couple of Chisato and Takina figures. It looks like Good Smile will be doing their combat uniforms, but Aniplex will be making their cafe uniforms, which I think are just a lot more appealing. Good Smile is also getting pretty spicy with this 1/6 scale figure based off a cosplayer, but if that's getting too hot, we also have this really cool figure of Noelle from Hololive. This is very similar to all the Taito prize figures. Of course, this one looks a million times better, and honestly, I think this is one of the best swimsuit figures out there. But enough staring at those legs, let's stare at some thighs with some Ryza figures. AmiAmi has a really bombastic Ryza figure sitting on a barrel, but I actually like the Wonderful One Works figure better, this one being based off her newest outfit in Ryza 3. I think the addition of the black to her outfit just adds a lot of contrast that I really like, and if I had to get any Ryza figure, this is probably the one I would get. We also have another Neko figure, which is pretty crazy how many we're actually getting from this artist. This one's pretty cool, but personally I do like the ones with weapons better. But speaking of weapons, there's this Girls Front Line figure by Fat Company. I really love how over the top all the tactical gear is. This one by Max Factory also has 2 big weapons, but my favorite might be the Power Bunny by Katakawa. This was previously shown off, but it didn't have the exosuit frame stuff, so I was pretty disappointed. So I'm glad to see it's back with all the stuff from the original concept art. I just love how silly it is, especially with all these boring bunny figures. I'd love to hear the backstory for this character. But since we brought up bunnies, I guess we can talk about the freeing bunnies. I mean, not much to say here, they're pretty standard bunny girls. I don't know how well the pose and expression match Hayasaka and Komi, but man is Komi tall compared to Beta Blue Girl. Kotobukiya has a pretty nice Spy Family figure with Anya riding Bond. It's pretty similar to the Sega prize figure if you couldn't get your hands on that. Of course, I'm sure this one would be a lot nicer too. Another spy related figure. This one is kind of weird because, you know, we buy figures because they're 3D, but the background is 2D, like all the items, so I do think that's a little jarring. But is it as jarring as seeing Supersonico in Megumin's outfit? I don't know why they showed this because they announced this at a previous event already. I just find it frustrating and annoying when these companies show these figures, but there's been no updates or changes since we last saw it. I don't want to jump into a whole nother rant again, so let's calm down by looking at these cute little Korone and Okayu lookup figures. Apex showed off a really cute Cthulhu-chan figure, but I do like her previous figure better because that one had a funnier expression, but all the toys and stuff here are super adorable. And while I'm not really into the Hello Good Smile line, I do think Alphonse here looks pretty goofy, so I might pick him up. Moving on to some other figures I really like were the Artifex line of figures. I'll probably be getting the Mirko figure unless one of the other companies show a better one off before it releases. Once again, I think the Artifex line is really solid with all the dynamic poses and the unique bases, except for Dabi. I don't know what they were doing with him. Denji in his chainsaw form does look a little silly from this angle, but I really do like him from the side view. Makima seems pretty solid, but I think Power looks even more promising. And then we're getting one for Trigun Stampede, which I'm not really sold on Vash's new look, but if they do release his old one from Badland Rumbles, I will definitely be getting that. We also got a new Pokemon one, though if I had to get any trainer, I'd probably get the May one that just re-released with Mudkip, because you know, I just really like Mudkips. I'm also glad we're still getting Persona figures. The new ones from Amakuni are pretty unique with them being in their uniforms, but they're also holding their mask. Though I gotta say, An is at a pretty crazy angle there that you might worry about some leaning issues or, you know, her breaking her ankles. I guess that could be solved with a support rod, but a figure that has 4 support rods is this new Christmas Albedo figure by Alter. I mean, I really like the concept art, but like, I'm just not a big fan of support rods. But I am a fan of big fans, as this Tamari figure is pretty cool. I do think this little guy down here with the blue kind of clashes a little too much with the figure. Mega House also has the Itadori figure, which does nothing but clash. I think this looks horrendous. The Naruto one, I don't even know what he's holding here. He's got like a body bag, but I don't know, he's going like freaking Goku. He's just flexing his muscles. But I'm glad Mega House is doing a bunch more Yu-Gi-Oh monsters. I really like Ultimate Blue Eyes here. And if the figure can match this concept art, I think this would probably be my favorite Dark Magician Girl figure. But Mega House can be a bit all over the place. I mean, just look at the face on this Rebecca figure. It just looks kinda off, but not as off as this art for freaking Tokyo Revengers. I mean, Draken just looks like freaking Slender Man here. But then the other figure, once it's actually in prototype, looks pretty good and has a lot of potential. I think it will really come down to how good the gold looks on the black outfits. But you might need some actual gold if you want to afford all the amazing Fate figures. There was the really cool Shootin' Doji figure by QuestQ. But given how expensive the Artoria one was, I doubt I'll be able to afford this one. There's a penguin in this altar figure, which is pretty awesome. But this video would be twice as long if I showed every Fate figure I thought was awesome. But what could be potentially awesome are the Aniplex Nier Automata figure for the anime. The flare ones were really nice, but the art style they were based on wasn't really my thing, so hopefully the ones made for the anime just appeal to me more. And finally, there were some extra spicy figures that caught my attention, the first being the Azure Lane St. Louis figure. I know a lot of artists on Twitter who are going crazy for this outfit. This figure is tempting in more ways than one, but I just am not a fan of the face here. And last but not least, we have an elf with mature lady vibes. But enough about butts. There were a ton of figures I didn't get to go over, so if you want, you can join my Discord and chat me up there. If you want to be super cool, you can buy me a coffee. Otherwise, thanks for watching, subscribing would be awesome, and I hope to see you on the next video. Bye bye.